Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to talk about Cycle 3, Week 8, New Grammar today. I also have a little thing I'm going to talk about with presentation, and at the end I'll share with you the new review game that we tried out for today. But before we do that, if this is helpful to you, if you like my channel, don't forget to subscribe so you can get all the new videos, and give it a thumbs up so other people can find it as well. The first thing we do is geography. First, we look at our colored maps. We find the locations and point to them and say them 3 times. Then once the kids are familiar with those locations, they pull out their black line maps and we mark them up. For Kansas, we drew a can with toes peeking out of it. So toes peeking out of cans, like Topeka, Kansas. For Oklahoma, we drew an oak home that has an overhang of the roof here, so Oak Home, Oklahoma. For Texas, we drew an X for Texas. I'm going to share a video with you guys that I found really helpful and fun for remembering these things. I don't have the musical capacity to do it in my class, but I got some of these ideas from that video, so I'll go ahead and link that in the description for you. Then in Colorado, we drew a cell phone. So I just outlined Colorado here, but some of the kids drew a little number pad in there. And we said we got lost in Colorado, so we had to call our dad, Colorado. Bit of a stretch, but some of the kids really enjoy these puns, so then after that, we drew a bow in New Mexico because Santa was making presents down there in Santa Fe. Santa ran out of presents to make in the North Pole, so he came down here to Santa Fe and he made a New Mexico. So that was for show me, and then for tell me, I just said, tell me the state and capital that has the bow in it. Then they said the name and they could erase it. And then as we were collecting up the maps, we listened to our song that we're using to learn the state's capitals. After geography, we did our history sentence. I had printed off this picture of Henry Clay from the Scribblers section on CC Connected. There's also a visual on here of a little handshake. We're going to use that in our hand motions. So we did 3 different things for history. I'll share them all with you. The first thing we did was the hand motions, then we did a little like acting activity, and then the third thing was the silly story. For 1820, we did our number fingers. After we said Henry Clay, we stomped our feet, just 2 stomps. For worked out the Missouri Compromise, we did that handshake. Allowing for union, we did an ASLU with both of our hands and came around in a circle like this. For slave state, we put our hands in chains, and for free state, we broke the chains. We sang through a few times doing the hand motions, then we did our acting activity. So I divided the room into half. Half the room was Missouri, a slave state, and the other half was Maine, the free state, and they wanted to cheer for that. And I was up front as the Union. So as we sang through the song, when Missouri came up, they walked up to me with their hands in chains as a slave state, and then when Maine came up in the song, they walked up to me cheering as the free state. And the last thing we did for history was the silly story. So I switch up the sentence and add funny words in there, kind of like Mad Libs, and then the kids get to be the tutor and correct me when I'm wrong, and they have to tell me what the right word is. So this really helps reinforce those key words for them. So I'll tell you what I used. Instead of 1820, I said 2020. Instead of Henry Clay, I said hippopotamus. Instead of Missouri Compromise, I said mashed potatoes. Instead of Missouri, I said manta rays. Instead of Union, I said U-Haul. Instead of slave state, I said sandcastle state. Instead of Maine, I said mistletoe. And instead of free state, I said frog state. For Latin, we just continued on with the song we've been learning the last 2 weeks. This was the last week, so we're complete with the song. I'll leave a link to that song in the description for you to go check out. We did do some hand motions for this. So for testimonium, we pointed to our mouth and put our hands out like this, like we were speaking a testimony. For lumina, light, we did this. For Johannes, we did a J, ASLJ, so you're drawing out a J with your pinky. And for tenebris, tenebrae, we covered our eyes for darkness. The kids really wanted to sing the full song. We didn't have time for it in new grammar, but that's something that you could do during review time. For timeline, we did the abbreviated hand motions. So for Council of Nicaea, we did 3 fingers into 1, like the Trinity. Some of the kids were having a hard time with this 3. I have a hard time with this 3. This finger wants to stick up. So a lot of the kids did this 3 to 1. For Augustine, we did an ASLA. For Vulgate, we opened our hands like we had the Bible, Vulgate. For Sac, Rome, we pulled up like this, Sac. During the music part of the Middle Ages, we put our hands like this and just stood prim and proper. And then when we said Middle Ages, we put our fingers in the middle of our hand down at chest level. For Middle Ages, for Council of Chalcedon, we did the sign for Jesus. So using your middle fingers, you touch the nail holes. And for Western Roman, we did a W pushed out to the side. And for barbarians, we made a barbarian face and put our arms like muscly people, barbarians. For math, we are still using these printables. I will link in the description for you. I handed out these little erasers I'd got from Dollar Tree last year. I think they still have them though. For our age range, this was quite a distraction. The kids took about 1 or 2 minutes telling each other which erasers they had. Even after I had quieted them down, they wanted to continue to talk about it. So it might be a distraction for this age for you guys, but this worked well for the abecedarians back in the day. So we used these erasers to point to our numbers. As we sang through the song twice, we pointed to the numbers, and I did show the kids ahead of time that from 140, 154, then we have to go up here because it's not a clear path. So after that, we pushed our chairs in, and as we sang the song, we hopped on 2 feet around the table. So for each number we said, we hopped once. And then because this song was to the tune of Camptown Races, I had them pretend to be riding horses around the table. And then we came back and sat down, and we went around in a circle, and each kid said one of the numbers. They went in order. We had to go around like twice to say all of them. I used this image up on the board when we were going over science so the kids could get a better visual. Especially, this was a great one for capillaries because most of the kids didn't know what capillaries were. I had one kid actually ask what they were, so it was good to have this visual. And you can find that in the Scribblers section under the Learning Center in CC Connected. We did some hand motions. So for heart, we made a heart with our hands like this. For arteries, we made an ASLA with our left hand, and out from our heart, we pushed out arteries, and then we turned our hand into a V for veins and came back to the heart. So it's like the blood is flowing to and from the heart. For capillaries, because they're the smallest blood vessel in the body, we pinched our fingers together like this by our heart. For red and white blood cells, we punched our hands up in the air, so red and white blood cells. And then for platelets, we covered our arm like this, like a band-aid, since platelets are what help our bodies to get scabs. They act like a band-aid, so platelets. We were running out of time, so we didn't do this, but you can roll the silly voice dice if you have those, and just go over the memory work in silly voices. And the last thing we did was English. This week it was not an irregular verb, it's a regular verb, and I think Cece put it in there so we could compare it to last week's irregular verb. So I just wanted to point that out because I didn't see anything in the Foundations guide about that. That's just kind of like word of mouth. So first I had the kids repeat after me, and as they were repeating after me, we took our hand and from down low and raised it up, since we were saying the different forms of to raise. And then I had them push their chairs in and raise their legs up as we said the verb forms, but this was also a distraction. I don't know if it would be for all ages or all classes, but in my class they were just getting silly with it, which is fine. It's fun for them to have fun, but just wanted to let you know that. And then we sang it to the tune of Farmer in the Dell. So that goes like this. To raise, raise, raises, raised, raising, raised. To raise, raise, raises, raised, raising, raised. I'll sing it one more time. To raise, raise, raises, raised, raising, raised. To raise, raise, raises, raised, raising, raised. So on to presentation. I have 8 kids in my class, so we've been running up against the clock pretty much each week with presentation. That's never happened before. My classes have always been smaller. So I got this little 2-minute sand timer for them to use to keep them on track. So when a kid first comes up to do the presentation, the first thing they do is turn this over, and then they have 2 minutes to do their presentation. And if it runs out and they don't notice, I try to gently tell them to wrap it up. And then after the 2 minutes, they still have time to take questions. For review this week, we played a game called Ouch. It's a game that we keep in our community. We keep it on campus, so I don't have it to show you right now. But if I can find a copy of it, I will link that in the description. And if not, it's pretty easy to make up. So the reason I did this for my class was because we have a box on campus of review games that you can just pull from each week, and our director advised us to do this in class because then the parents, if they ever have to sub, will have a game they can just easily pull out of the box, and they don't really have to prepare anything ahead of time for class for the review part. So the game has pretty, it has rules, but you can kind of switch it up how you want. Like you can have kids in teams or do individual kids. So I paired kids off, so we had 4 pairs of kids doing this. Our director gave us this little flip book, so I used this to do the review questions. So I just pulled from this book. So here's how the game works. First, we had a bag, and it's full of different laminated pieces. Some of the pieces say ouch, some are a band-aid, and some are a smiley face. The point of the game is to get the most smiley faces that you can. So first, when it's a team's turn, I ask them to review some memory work. If they get it right, then they each get to pull 1 piece from the bag. I really want to be easy on the kids for a review. Our class is super competitive, so if the team didn't get it right, I let the whole class answer the question, and then I gave that team another chance with another review question. So if they pull a smiley face, they get to keep that. If they pull an ouch, if they have a band-aid, they can put the band-aid on the ouch and then put both of those back in the bag and keep their smiley face. If they pull an ouch but they don't have a band-aid and they have a smiley face, they have to put 1 smiley face back in the bag with the ouch. So they end up accumulating band-aids and smiley faces throughout the game. The class had a really good time with this. It was somewhat competitive, but it's nice because it's a game of chance. So yes, there's skill involved, but to win the game, it's really based on chance, based on what you're pulling from the bag. So that was week 8. I hope you guys have a great week 8, and I will see you again next week for week 9.